Hello, my name's Rachel and this is ShireSystem. Today I'm going to be demonstrating the maintenance management module to you. So this is the dashboard, and from the dashboard we can see the status of your work, and you can click into any of these pending, due, overdue, etc. to see the work orders that are relevant. Also, we've got a couple of graphs and you can change what the graph shows as well as the style of the graph from here. If I wanted to look at my breakdowns, I simply click into the green section and that will show me any breakdown work orders I've currently got in the system. Also on the dashboard, we've got my work orders. So depending on who's logged into the system, if it were a member of maintenance staff, they would see the work that they need to complete. Otherwise, it's the work that you've put into the system and the status of them. I'm going to make a start at lookups, and this is where the setup of the system takes place. This system can work for everyone, small and large companies, all different industries, and that's because the customer gets involved with the setup of their own system, so they use the terminology that's relevant to them. Now, there's a lot of lookups in here. I won't go through them all today, but I will just touch on a few to give you an idea of how they work. So wherever you see a drop-down panel within the system, this is where you choose what should show within that drop-down panel. First one we've got here is action. As well as having a section on the work order to put in your sign-off notes, you can choose from a drop-down panel an action that has taken place. If you've got assets that are the same, that you need to perform the same tasks on, you can group them together into an asset category and then assign tasks to the entire category rather than having to set them all up individually. We can set up a fault matrix within the system. So I've got a fault area here of air handling units. These are the typical areas on an air handling unit that could develop a fault. And then I've also got the cause of the fault. So again, from drop-down panels, you can choose where the fault occurred and what caused it. And that standardizes the answers that are going into your system. So it makes the reporting side of this system a lot easier to use. Priorities. When you're setting up your assets, you can give them a priority. So how urgent is this piece of kit? How quickly do I need to respond to it if it were to break down? And with your PPMs, you can give them a tolerance. So I might be performing a 12-monthly service and I want it to be completed within 1 month. And from these priorities, the respond by and required by dates are automatically pulled through to the system for you. Standard text is a handy one. If you're forever writing the same sentence over and over again onto a work order, you can program it in as a standard text and choose it from a drop-down box. And we've got work types, and the system comes automatically with breakdown, corrective and PPM, but you can put in here whatever's relevant to you. We've even put in here training, so it is possible to keep track of your staff training within the system and set up tasks to remind you when someone needs to do some training. I'm also going to show you attributes in the system. So an attribute is any information that you want to find out about a part, a person, an asset. So for example, if I was looking at my assets here and I select air handling units, I might want to know the airflow, the cooling capacity, etc. And you'll see examples of that as we work through the system. I'm going to go next to locations, and the key here is showing the different types of locations that we've already set up using the lookups section. So within the system, you can break your locations down in various ways. I've got a facilities management company here that has a couple of different regions. In one region, we've put customer names. In the other, we've got building names. We've got a hospital here with different wings, different wards, which we've broken down into different bays. And then we've got a manufacturing company with a couple of different sites, and the sites are broken down into different departments. And we've even broken down our production into different lines. And we've got a production store to keep track of the stock. If you're in the location tree and you select a location, you can view any assets that are held there, any parts if you were using the stock option, and any open or closed work orders for that location. Okay, contacts. A contact in the system could be a member of staff, a member of maintenance staff, a supplier, a contractor, or a customer. So if I just go into a company first, throughout the system, you'll see yellow fields, and that means it's a mandatory field. You must fill it out. So to set up a company on the system, all you actually need is the company name, but you want to put in a bit more information than that. So we've got their contact information on the next tab. And this is a contractor. So for attributes, we've put in their contract agreement number, renewal date, and value. And what you could do is set up a reminder to remind you when this renewal date's coming up to contact them and get a new agreement out of them. If I go to a person, it's just first name, surname that are mandatory in the system. But again, we've put in quite a bit more information for Aaron. So he's staff, he's maintenance staff. We've got him down as a maintenance engineer. What you can also do within the system, if you always charge the same labour rate for Aaron, you can put in a charge code, and when he selected his hours labour on the work order, the system will automatically calculate the labour charge for you. You can even put a pretty picture of Aaron on, and wherever you attach an image in the system, you've got the option to include it when printing to a work order. Again, we've got his contact information on the next tab. Now, because Aaron uses the system, he has a user account, and this is where you can set up the different permissions for who can do what within the system. We've got 5 levels of permission. I'm accessing the system as an administrator, so I can do everything. A supervisor can do almost as much as the administrator, apart from a couple of bits and pieces, like they can't delete work orders out of the system. We've got the work requester module, which is an additional module, and the Wallboard viewer, which again is an additional module. And then we've got other. And if I just bring up the matrix here, if I select a matrix, as I said, you can see administrator can do everything, supervisor just has a couple of blank spots, and then you've got different job titles that give different permissions, and you can select more than one of these, as we've done with Aaron, to give the permissions that are required. You can also give read-only access to the system. So, for example, I might want Aaron to be able to look at the scheduler, but I don't want him moving anything around, so I give him read-only access to it. Because Aaron is a member of maintenance, we can see any work assigned to him from his contacts page. He can also be part of a team or trade. So he's a mechanical fitter and a pipe fitter, and he works on extended days. And when it comes to assigning your work, you can initially just assign to a trade and then see who's available to do the job a little bit nearer the time. Or you can assign work to a team of people and then let the members of the team choose which jobs they do for themselves. Okay, I'm going to go to the asset register, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the grid. You'll see this same grid throughout the system, and it's very easy to use and navigate. I can change the width of my columns. I can move one from one place to another. Incidentally, any changes you make are only for your own login. If somebody else logs into the system, they will see their own view. And when you log out, the system remembers the last view that you were using. We've got a column chooser here, so I can add in or take away columns. If I click at the top of a column, it will sort, click again, and it reverse sorts. I can also do a filter, and I can put in part of a word, and the system will find anything with that part of the word in it. And we can also do multiple filters at the same time. If I clear it out with this one, we can also search by attributes. So, for example, I could look up my air handling units by cooling capacity, put in a range, and filter it that way. You can also export the view to Excel, and that will put the same filtered view into an Excel spreadsheet, which you can save and filter externally. Now I've got a plus and a minus here for adding in or deleting assets from the system. If you want to add an asset, I click on the plus button and then I get a form to fill out the details of the asset. Not many reasons you'd want to delete an asset. If you've got an asset with historical data, you don't want to delete it because you'd also delete the historical data. If I've got an asset that's no longer in use, I can go into it and I can set it as inactive in the system, pop in the date and save. And when I come out of here, my AHU 001 will have disappeared from the list. But if I change active to non-active, there it is. I can still get into it, still view any historical details, and I can also set it as active again. And there it is back in the list. Another button here is Add to Work Subject Group. Now, a work subject group means that you can link together various assets and perform multiple tasks against all of those assets. You'll see an example of that a little bit later when we get to the work orders page. So if I go into an asset, I've got 4 mandatory fields. The first one is asset code. Now, you may already have asset codes that you use. That's absolutely fine. If not, we suggest that you keep it short and make it reflect what it is. So it's an air handling unit. We've called it an AHU, and it's the first one, so 001. We've got the location of the asset, and we've got the asset category so that we can assign tasks to the entire category. The rest of the information here is optional, but you might want the supplier, make, model and serial number, and certainly the priority, so how quickly does it need to respond to it if it were to break down. We've got a picture of our asset here as well. On the Advanced tab, we've got the asset owner, the criticality of the unit, and we've got the fault group. So that's where the fault areas and fault causes that I showed you earlier come from. We've got asset notes and safety notes on here as well. We've got our attributes, which we can search by, and we can see any work orders for the asset from its assets page, and also if we've scheduled any tasks against the asset. I'll be showing you meters a little bit later. We can do meter readings and meter routes as standard with the maintenance module. Throughout the system, you can attach documents, and you can attach documents in any format. But if you attach them as a PDF, you do have the option to auto print to the work order. You can also have a URL link as a document as well. You can have a sub-asset of an asset, and you can go up to 4 levels with that. Can keep a parts list if we're using the stock level module, and KPI availability. There's a KPI module which is an add-on. If you're using that, you want to put in the available hours and unavailable days for your asset. Movement history, if I just go back to the first tab, we've got the location of the asset here. If I were to move it from one location to another, I simply clear that out and put in the new location. And then if I hit on the movement history tab, it will show me where the asset has been and when it moved. So once you've created an asset, you might have 10 of these. So rather than having to put all that information in again, we've got a clone option, and it will automatically kick out a new asset code in the range that I've set up. We've got the asset description. It can go into a different location if need be, and then it will clone everything that you've set up against the original asset, including any scheduled tasks. If there's anything you don't want to clone, you just untick it before you hit the clone button. Okay, I'm going to go next to the task library. So the task library is mainly used for setting up your PPM tasks, but could also be used for any repetitive breakdowns that you have. So if you've got a breakdown that happens over and over again, you can set it up as a one-off task in the system. It will just sit in the library and you pull it out as and when you need to. So if I go into my 12 monthly service here, I've got a task code, so similar to asset code. I've got a description of my task. Now, this is the greatest task that we do, so there's no parent task listed for this one. It's a PPM, and it's going to be repeated every 12 months. So repeat type, we've got various options. We've got the one-off for your repetitive breakdown tasks. We can set up a task based on usage. So for example, you might want to perform a service on so many hours that a machine has run. You keep track of those hours run using the meters in the system, which I'll be showing you a bit later. And when those hours run hit a certain reading or a margin percentage either side, this task would automatically kick out for you. You can also have an override, so many hours run or so many months, whichever happens first. We've then got manual and automatic, both of which can be used for your PPMs. So for example, if I were to create a monthly task and I set it up to come out on the 1st of the month, and I've set it as manual, if I didn't get around to doing it until the 15th of the month, the next task would still kick out on the 1st of the following month. If I'd set it as automatic, it then wouldn't kick out until the 15th of the following month. You want to put in some estimated man hours for your task. When we come to the scheduler in a moment, there's a button you can press that shows you how many jobs and how many hours you've estimated for the week. If this is left blank, it's not going to reflect correctly. We've got the priority of the task, so it wants to be completed within 1 month. Now, if you know who's going to do this task, if it's always the same person or contractor, you can assign at task level, or you could just assign to a trade or a team of people at this point. We've got the asset category, so this task can be assigned to this category. We've got 3 other options over here. If you are using the work requester module, which is a multi-user license to put in requests for jobs to be done, you can make the task available to them. You can say that you want downtime to be mandatory on the work order. And if you go down the route of using our mobile applications, you can make the task available to them. So once you've created a task, again, you might have a similar task. So you've got the clone option. And if I'd cloned this to create my 6 monthly task, it would have come out 12, 3 hours 45. So I just go in and amend the bits that I need to. Now, because this is a lesser task, we've set the 12 monthly as the parent task, and the system will work with suppression. So basically, if my 6 monthly task comes out within a certain date range of my 12 monthly task, the 6 monthly will automatically be suppressed for me. So once a task is set up, you can schedule it against a subject. Now, a subject could be an asset, but it could also be a contact or a location within the system. So, for example, I might want to set up a task to remind me that someone needs to do some training, or I might want to set up a task to change all the light bulbs at a particular location. So I'm creating a schedule for my 12 monthly service. At the same time, I can create a schedule for any children of the task. I can schedule against a single subject or the entire category. We've already assigned at task level. We know it's going to be repeated every 12 months. So all you need to say is when you want the schedule to start from. That will then put the task into the scheduler. So I've got my AHUs and my 3, 6, 12 monthly service here. We've got a filter option on here for what you're seeing on the scheduler. At the moment, I'm looking at PPMs. I can view my non-PPMs. I can also drill down further using these options. The yellow field is the current week. And if I click at the top, that's where it will show me how many jobs and how many hours I've estimated for the week. Various letters that can come up in the scheduler. Let me just bring up the legend. So when you schedule a task, it goes in as an X. You need to generate your work orders. Now, you might come in on a Friday and generate for the following week. You might do a month at a time, entirely up to you. But once they've been generated, they change to W for open work order. S is where a job has been suppressed. You might also see work order on hold, closed, or signed off as not done. Very easy to move things around on the scheduler. I can drag and drop, and that will move the entire schedule because I've got my drag mode set to row. Alternatively, you can just move an item at a time. And if by making a movement it changes a suppression, the system will automatically update that for you. So if I go to generate my work, it will automatically pick up the following week, which I've already done. So I can manually change that to another week or a month range, whichever we prefer. So when I hit generate, my X's here will become W's. There we go. I can then also print my work orders from here. Now that will take a couple of moments to load. While I'm waiting for that, if I just click on the view here of my 6 monthly task, this is where you can set up the suppression threshold. So if my 6 monthly task comes up within 30 days of my 12 monthly task, the 6 monthly will automatically be suppressed. So I can now view and print my work order from here. So I've got a work order number, it's a PPM. We've already assigned it to Aaron. It's got a 1 week tolerance. It's got a planned start date. We've got a respond by and required by date that have automatically pulled through from the priorities we've set. We've got the work subject, its location, and a description of the task. We've got some safety notes and instructions, a picture of the asset. If you're using the stock option, you can also allocate a part to the task, so it will show you what part is required and where it's held in your stores. We've got a section for putting in our sign-off notes. We can put in the start and completion date, duration and downtime. You can even say if it's been fixed on first visit. Part of the KPI module is a report for percentage of jobs fixed first time. We can collect signatures, and then any documents that were attached to either the asset or the task where we've asked for them to print to the work order will come off and they'll have the work order number at the top and at the bottom of each page. Okay, so that is your PPMs. When it comes to reactive maintenance, you would use the work orders section of the system. So we've got our work orders coming up in here. If I go down the page a little bit, you'll see there's a bit of color coding going on. So again, I'm going to bring up the legend. So the first two are to do with the work request of the multi-user license. Work requests awaiting approval, critical and non-critical. We've got work that's not scheduled yet, work that's scheduled in the future, in progress, on hold, due, pending, overdue and late jobs. These are all dictated by the priorities we've set, so the respond by and required by dates, closed work and work not done. You can search by a work order if you know the number. You can search by location, by start dates. The system will automatically show you open work orders only, but you can click to show closed or both. And similar to the dashboard, you've got your status of your work in here, and you can jump straight to any of these. So just for example, if I wanted to have a look at all of my unassigned work, I can limit to the 29 that are there and go through and assign them. We've also got a group action option, so you can select more than one work order, and with group action you can approve or reject a work request, schedule, assign, reschedule, progress, put on hold, sign off as not done, sign off, or email the work orders on. So similarly with your unscheduled work, the group action can save you some time. If I wanted to put in a new work order, I simply click on the Add button, and I've got 4 mandatory fields that I need to fill out. The first one is work type. I'm going to put in a breakdown, and I put in my subject. That will automatically pull through the location for me because it knows where it's kept. I just need to put in a description of what needs to be done. I'm not very good at that. Now, if I was somebody that assigns jobs, I could do. I'm just going to save this into the system, ready for someone to pick up. And if I come out of here, back to the main screen, there's my new one that I've just put in. So I can go into that. And I've got various options here. I can schedule it. I could put it on hold. So for example, I might be awaiting some spares. So that will change the status from new to on hold. When the spares come in, I take it off hold. It goes back to being a new job again. I can create a follow-on work order. I can sign it off as not done. So, for example, I've come to do the work and the foreman won't let me shut down the machine, so I'm going to sign it off as not done. The bottom option here, check staff suitability, that only comes with the resource planner add-on. With all work orders, you can email them on and you can sign them off. So when I go to sign off, it will ask me to put in my completion date, my time spent, my downtime. We can have cost centers and cost codes against your work. We've got a fault group, so I can choose my fault area, my fault cause, my action taken. And this is where you can put in your sign-off notes. So I could either type in some notes, or I can also use the standard text. And I can either choose from a drop-down panel, or if I know the code of the text, I can type that in, press F2, and that will fill it out for me. I can say whether or not it was fixed on first visit. And again, I can still create a follow-on work order from here. So if I hit sign off, my 2746 will disappear. It will bring up my follow-on work order, 2747. So it's a follow on from 2746. I can change the description, save that into the system, ready for someone else to pick up. If I go to the last tab, related work orders, here's the one I've just closed off, so I can click there and go back and finish that one off. So I can still see the details of the task, any information about the task, any documents that were attached. You can have attributes against a work order, for example, defect found, and this is where you can book out parts and labour to the work order. Now, if you were using the stock option, you can physically book out a part from here. With labour, do you remember when we were on the contacts page, I said you can automatically allocate a labour charge to a contact? We've done that with Chris. So because he's put in his 2 hours labour, the system has automatically calculated the labour costs for us. I can see the history of the work order. So it was a new job, then it was on hold awaiting spares, back to a new job, and then we closed it off. Can see any work done from the sign-off notes, and again we've got the related work orders. There's my new follow-on work order. Okay, I'm going to show you next how we can do checks and instructions within a work order, and also how we can do meter routes. So this work order has checks and instructions. This is also a multi-subject work order that I mentioned earlier. So we're going to do the same checks and instructions against all of these different conveyor belts. So if I go to print first, so you can see what it looks like on paper. We've got the work order details at the top, a part that's required, some safety notes and instructions. We've then got the same list of 5 checks and instructions for each of the conveyor belts. Now, with an instruction, regardless of what you've put in here, the answer is going to be done, not applicable, or not done. With a check, it's pass, fail, not applicable or not done. And with a reading, you need to put in a value. So if I click on here, it will bring up my list of checks and instructions for this conveyor belt. And I've got safety notes first that I accept, instructions, and then I've got my step-by-step question and answer section. So I've done that. Here we're asking to check the running temperature of a motor, and what you can do is set upper or lower criticals and targets. So if I put in a reading that's too high, it will fail the task, and you've got 2 options with a failure. You can either have a reactive task that will automatically kick out when you get this failure, or I can fix on the spot, put in a new reading, and it will pass, but you've still got a record of your failure. So I carry on down the page doing my checks and instructions. If I get to the bottom and it's blank here, I know I've missed something. I should always have a pass at the bottom or a fail if I haven't fixed on the spot. So I close that off. So I can now see that I've done the checks on this conveyor, but I've still got these to do. And if I go out of here to the main page, I can see the percentage of the job that's done, so I know again that there's more work to be done on that work order. Okay, so I'm going to show you now the meter routes. So for the Royal Hospital, we've set up a meter route to read their utilities meters. So on the same work order, I can check the water, electric, gas and hours run on the boiler, put in all the readings here and save into the system. Now, if I had a usage-based task set up on the boiler and those hours run hit that reading or a margin percentage either side, that's when that task would kick out for you. Okay, reports. Now there's quite a few reports in the system that come as standard. So all of these reports come with the system, except materials is only if you've bought the stock and inventory module. Purchasing is with the purchasing module, and then there's the KPI reports. So within the main maintenance package, you get reports for clients and locations, assets, meters, contacts and suppliers, tasks and subject groups, current work, work history, faults and downtime, cost analysis, scheduler, documents, user accounts, system, and recent reports. So if I just go into a report to show you how these work, depending on what report you choose, you will get different filtering options for the report. Things like dates, work type, location, assigned to. And you've got various options. You can export the report to Excel. If it's a large report, you can click to view it later. It will build in the background while you get on with other things, or you can just click to view. So this one's just going to give me a brief work history. There you go. So if I go to, say, labour hours, and I say I want to export this one to Excel, I had different filtering options. That one builds in the background while I get on with other things. And I'm also going to go for work activity and click to view that one later. So once I'm ready to look at those, I go to recent reports. Here's the work history in brief that we've already looked at. This is the one we exported to Excel in bold, and the work activity report, which doesn't look like it's got anything on. I've obviously chosen the wrong one there. Okay, so with any of these, you've got the option to view, keep, email, or delete. Basically, if you've looked at a report, it will automatically delete after 24 hours unless you hit the keep button. If you haven't looked at it, it will stay for 30 days unless you've hit the keep button. If you've hit the keep button, it will stay until you delete it. So I can now view this one in Excel. And again, that can be saved and filtered externally. Okay, one last thing I'm going to show you quickly, and that's our new Wallboard module. This is due out with the latest version 4.0, and basically the Wallboard gives you the ability to have various boards. So we've got the maintenance team, the last 10 work orders raised, and general stats. And it's showing real-time views of your system and can be displayed across multiple screens across your business. We have got a Wallboard webinar that somebody else did the other day. If anyone's interested in seeing more information about the Wallboard, just let our sales team know and we can send the webinar recording to you. And that's about it for today. Thank you for your time. If you've got any questions, please let us know. Thank you.